My sister Grace, 40, has been ignoring me, 21 male, for 5 months since finding out that Grace is not my sister. She's my biological mom, and after finding this out, my whole life's been a mess. My parents pretended to be my parents because, from what they told me, it was better that way for everyone since Grace wasn't ready to be a mom. I've wanted to hear her side ever since, but she decided to block me. My parents have talked to her because Grace wants to drop this and not tell her husband. They live in another state, so they're not close, but she basically didn't want this to get to her husband. I kept asking her to just sit down with me once to hear her side, but she's been silent ever since. I'm asking if I'm an idiot because my cousin and I had beers at his house the other weekend. Having had a lot to drink, I started crying about everything going on. He asked me what was wrong and I told him everything. Crap blew up. Nobody in my family knew about this. He texted his mom that same night. The following day I woke up to everyone blowing up my phone, even my parents. Everybody in the family knows, and they've even reached out to Grace on my behalf, telling her if I want to talk to her then she owes me at least that. This whole thing couldn't be kept a secret from her husband. He knows now too because she called my parents crying because they had a big fight. He's so mad he's staying with his parents. She's saying it's my fault now for not letting it go. And now it seems like everything in her life is falling apart, including my parents because everyone's coming down on them too for lying this whole time. I know none of this would have happened if it hadn't been for me saying something, but I also feel that after being the one who got lied to, I was owed some answers too. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Wow, I can't even. I am so sorry that this happened to you. She knew that you found out. The least she could have done is talk to you. Anyone could see this playing out as it did. She might have had a different outcome if she'd done the right thing. This is not on you. I'm hesitant to call the sister an idiot because none of us know the circumstances behind OP's conception. However, I'm giving her a smidge of benefit because this could potentially be a very painful experience for her. Well, I'd call her an idiot, at least for marrying a man without telling him that her sibling is her child. I'd be shocked if he found out and didn't end up in a big argument and ongoing trust issues, at the very least. Many people seem to think that having had a suspected, OP doesn't know, traumatic experience means you can inflict trauma on others and expect them to uphold a life-shattering lie without being held accountable. Being traumatized doesn't mean you can't also be a huge idiot. Exactly this, OP. You had every right to share with your cousin what you were going through because you have no obligation to continue the lie that your family started. Also, please remember, no matter what Grace says, that what is happening to her now that the truth is known is not your fault. She chose not to tell her husband the truth when she met him and still didn't tell him when they were dating, after becoming engaged, and then even after getting married. She decided to keep this from her husband, and he has every right to be upset. His reaction is not because or about you specifically, but rather about realizing that his wife didn't trust him enough with the truth and was planning to keep him in the dark forever. Even 22 years ago, this secret was a bad plan and would never be kept forever. And this isn't just her story of life, it's yours too. As someone whose biological mom pretended to be their sister well into my 20s, I can assure you that you caused less of a fuss than I did. But to be honest, I didn't read the whole story. I know that feeling when the truth is right there and you get tired of hiding other people's problems that were never yours to be responsible for. My wife and I have been together for 5 years, married for 3. We travel across the state about every 6 months to visit her grandmother. My mother-in-law never came along till recently. I always thought she saw it as our vacation since Grandma's City is a tourist destination. We left Friday morning, intending to spend Mother's Day weekend there. Mother-in-law reluctantly came along, wife insisted. Mother-in-law seemed to be stalling us as we got closer to Grandma's City. She kept wanting to stop along the way. Eventually we got there, my wife and I walked in and got hugs. Mother-in-law walks in behind me and Grandma says, "Wow, Terry, you've gotten fat." I was utterly appalled. The lady is not fat. A bit later, everyone is sitting in the living room when Grandma starts bossing my mother-in-law around, saying, "Make yourself useful and wait on us." I felt very uncomfortable, so I pulled my wife aside. I asked her, is this why her mom never comes because her mother treats her like crap? My wife said to ignore it, the crap has been going on for 30 plus years. So mother-in-law went to bed very early. The next morning, Grandma criticized her clothes by saying, "You should have a skirt on. You look so unattractive wearing that." She had jeans and a jean jacket. She looked fine and was dressed appropriately for the weather. All day Saturday, I became increasingly irritated with the sly remarks. Criticizing her hair, body shape, education, and wage she earned just went on and on. "You can't do anything right," specifically angered me. Later that evening, Grandma was cooking dinner. I was within earshot and heard her ask why my mother-in-law hasn't remarried yet. She responded with a simple answer, "I'm happy being alone." Grandma says, "That's a bunch of bull. Something is wrong with you. That's why no men are attracted to you." Before I knew it, mother-in-law was gone. I went into the guest bedroom and told my wife she needed to do something about her grandma's behavior and stop letting this crap slide. I went to see where she went. I found her on the side of the house, crying. She told me she's never understood why her mother hates her so much. I told her to get her things, we're leaving. I went back in and I'll fully admit I caused a huge scene. I just had enough. I called her out on every single remark she made in the last 24 hours. I said more that I can't repeat here. Finally, my wife's step-grandfather got in my face telling me to leave. Things got nasty. The three of us left and went to a hotel for the night. I spent most of the Sunday around the city and told my wife she could go back to Satan's house if she wanted, but I'm not. We got back home late Sunday night. My wife and I had it out. She told me I should have left it alone, it wasn't my place. She says, "Now I'm worried about losing my inheritance." I was freaking shocked. "So you would let this woman abuse your mother over your inheritance?" We continued to argue. She said I needed to stop being a white knight and told me I needed to apologize to her grandma. A few minutes later, mother-in-law texted me, "Thank you." Not the idiot. Good on you for standing up to your mother-in-law. Nobody's talking to my mama like that, not even my mama's mama. However, your wife is a huge idiot for not only letting her grandma's comments slide, behavior she's complicit in, but for arguing with you for defending her own mother. Money aside, you should be concerned about what your wife already inherited from grandma. Oh, this. I'd lose my crap if someone spoke to my mom like that. And if your wife insisted that her mom come along, knowing she'd be treated this way? I don't know, OP. You may have just uncovered a rotten layer of your wife. And don't apologize to that evil old lady. My theory, OP's wife is probably using mother-in-law as a meat shield because if Terry isn't there to abuse, Grandma might find reasons to pick on her granddaughter. So wife forces scapegoat mother-in-law to go on the trip. Take a long hard look at your wife. Is she the woman you actually thought she was? Grandma is an abusive monster and her granddaughter isn't much better. I wonder if she'd throw you under the bus for her inheritance. I think the part that broke my heart was your mother-in-law saying thank you. It sounds like no one has ever stood up to Grandma and you were right to do it. When you marry the family. Your mother-in-law is your family and it was very sweet of you to stand up for her. Your wife is so wrong. Money is more important to her than her mother's peace. It's funny that she says it isn't your place, yet she doesn't do anything about it, even though it is very much her place. So for the past month, my 36 husband, 39, has been waking up at 5 every morning to have a walk. These walks would take about 2 hours. Side note to mention that this is new. He's not trying to lose weight, pretty thin. He's not athletic by nature, nor has sports interests or hobbies. In fact, he hated doing any sport. I'm happy for him since it's an overall positive thing. But yesterday, he came home in the evening after working for long hours and then stayed up late playing with his phone. So I went to bed at 10 after getting done with the mess and everything. I woke up to him yelling at me at 7 a.m, asking why I didn't wake him up for his 5 a.m. walk. He said he missed it and I'm responsible for that. I was so confused. I said, first of all, he always wakes up by setting his alarm. Why should I be expected to wake him up this time? He yelled that he'd forgotten to set his alarm. I said, so what? It's no big deal. It's not like he missed an important meeting or something, but he got angrier and said that those walks helped improve his health, restore his energy, and help him feel better. I commented that missing one walk won't hurt, but he unloaded on me, yelling about how I was trying to prevent him from doing his hobby for some unknown reason. I told him he was sorely mistaken, even though I admit that those daily 5 a.m. walks around the Veterans Park are weird, and his reaction? I thought it was really over the top. He stormed off and went to shower, saying I ruined his entire day. When he got out, he avoided and ignored me even when I talked to him directly. Finally, he went to work and refused to respond to my calls. Really, I'm at a loss, like maybe it was something I said about his walks, but I really don't know. He's sulking non-stop and I'm literally about to lose my mind. Am I the idiot? Whilst I wouldn't have initially found the daily walks odd, his reaction definitely is. Perhaps I'm crazy, but tomorrow I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to see where exactly he goes on those morning walks. But again, maybe I'm crazy. Because, for real, that's a totally weird response to being tired and missing a walk, a 2-hour walk. I agree that you need to follow him. No one goes for walks at 5 a.m. for 2 hours and flips out when they miss one day, especially when it's their own fault for missing that day. I'm sincerely hoping that this isn't an affair and that OP follows her husband to find him doing innocuous things like learning the cello, carving, or painting gourds to look like world leaders. He always set his alarm. He had no reason to believe you'd even be awake at 5 a.m. to wake him up. He didn't even ask you to wake him up, yet he's mad at you because he didn't wake up. That is a bizarre reaction. Is there any way to convince him to see a doctor? See a doctor for what? The affair he's having? In addition to what everyone else is saying, I notice he stayed up playing on his phone while you were up till 10, dealing with the mess and everything. Does your husband contribute to the household at all? Is there always an unfair expectation of labour division that negatively affects you? There are just a lot of red flags in this story. So my 27 male sister-in-law's husband, 31, is a piece of work. He's a bit of a bragger and boasts about his money and the things he's bought with said money. My wife and I aren't exactly struggling, but we're not as well off as them. Every time we visit them, he'll pull me aside to show off whatever new gadget he bought. Whenever we go out to dinner with them, he'll insist on paying in the most condescending way possible. He'll also try to give me financial advice, which is just annoying. My wife doesn't like him, but she puts up with it since she's very close to her sister. I'm close to my wife, so I put up with it for her. So he got into crypto a year ago. I work in finance and have learned a decent amount about crypto. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see how it's a Ponzi scheme. When he brought me this advice, we argued about it. He accused me of not wanting to give my wife the life she deserves. He also said that he would make his family millionaires and called me naive for not wanting to join in. I don't know if you've all been watching the news lately, but many cryptos aren't doing so hot. We hosted them for dinner last night. It was awkward. There was some tension there, but I really couldn't tell why. In a period of silence, I asked him, "So are you all millionaires yet?" My wife's sister put her head down in her hands and was in tears in seconds. Her husband explained they bet money they couldn't afford on various cryptos that crashed. He lost a ton of money and said they wouldn't be able to stay in their house or pay for their 2 daughters' preschool unless they figured something out. I was immediately met with a glare from him and my wife. I felt bad, but I honestly didn't know, and I wouldn't have mocked him. I knew he lost money, but I didn't know he would lose that much. When they left, my wife accused me of being an idiot, measuring the cons test against him, and said I took it too far. I tried to argue that he started it, and she told me I was a child. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. First, you didn't know. Second, after him boasting so much, there had to be some schadenfreude going on for you, which is understandable. The people who talk the most about their money are often the people who spend too much trying to project an image. To me, OP's wife is a bit of an idiot. I'm sure she knew and she didn't bother to tell him. If she had, OP wouldn't have made a faux pas like this, so she's probably upset at herself. I feel like OP is being kind about this by not further mocking brother-in-law after all that big game he was talking about. Not the idiot. Imagine focusing on gambling over your family. Yes, gambling because he used money he couldn't afford to lose. The number one rule not to do, and on an incredibly volatile, illiquid asset that can't be hedged to protect against downturns. What a moron. Everyone's the idiot here. Your brother-in-law is obviously a giant idiot and he's way worse than you are, but even if he were making bank on his investments right now, the question you asked was clearly snarky, and that's just a stupid way to treat a guest in your home. If you hate him talking about it, you should never initiate a convo about it. My close friend Betty got together with Andy 4 months ago. We like Andy. He is a kind, bright, funny guy. The thing is, Andy dropped out of high school and therefore his job prospects are terrible. Betty only recently found this out and she's devastated. She immediately started to look for an evening high school for him and asked what university course he would be interested in after that. I talked Betty out of encouraging Andy toward university. There are plenty of excellent and free trainings, carpenter, mechanic, heavy machinery operator, CNC programmer, etc., that would probably fit Andy better. On the next board game night after that, with 3 couples including them, we started talking about this with Andy, trying to understand what field would suit him the best and what he'd like to do. My husband offered to tutor Andy so he could finish high school as soon as possible, and we were also looking up training courses for him and asking his opinion on them. Andy got overwhelmed and said he was tired, and he and Betty left. After they left, another guy from our friend group said that we shouldn't push Andy towards getting an education, shouldn't try to change who he is, and the poor guy probably thinks we're looking down on him now with all of us being engineers or lawyers. Betty told me that Andy didn't complain about it the next day but was down. Are we the idiots? Should we apologize to Andy? We only wanted to help. You are the idiot. That's a one-on-one convo. People don't just drop out of school for fun. There are reasons, sometimes really dark. You all have only known him for 4 months, so you have no right to have some sort of education intervention at a gathering. Also, I noticed how you referred to him as poor guy. You might as well throw a little to drive home how much you pity him for not having a diploma. This is so much. The language used in the story is so condescending. All of you ganging up on Andy are the idiots. He has his reasons for not finishing high school. He'll ask if he wants you to know why and wants your help. All of you sound like a bunch of elitist snobs, and until he asks for your help with finishing high school and or going to university, accept him for the kind, bright, funny guy you claim him to be. Jesus, leave this poor man alone. You're all jumping in trying to fix him when it doesn't appear that he's even asked for your help. Of course, he probably feels like you all think he's not good enough, which you probably do think that.